Morning. I always like to have a few distractions when I preach. It takes the pressure off of me.
You're just making me think you're going right now, that's all.
We'll see if you still feel like that at the end of the message. It's getting violent up there, man. What kind of church is this? I'm telling you what, this one's probably going to work a little better for that than this. Anyway, I am so glad that we will be addressing those issues today. Yes. So I'm embarking on a new series, and there's actually 4 topics within the series, and each topic has a couple different messages on it. The series I'm calling a reality series, and because we're going to really get into some real life issues and some real life things and deal with life and with everything that is going on in our culture, in our society. God's just really impressing upon my heart that there is a need for us to be able to live effectively in every area of our life. And it's areas of marriage, areas of who we are as a person. The topics for this reality series is, one is marriage, one is being a real woman, one is being a real man, and the other one is stepping into your destiny. And so we're going to kind of break it up. You know, I probably won't preach every time I preach. It probably won't be on one of those issues because they're real. They can get a little heavy at times, and too much of that, we get overloaded, and we need a little levity in between to break things up and keep going and keep motivated, right? We could do this. Give me a little time to work on the last message before you beat me over the head. No, we're not beating anybody over the head. So the question becomes, with all of this up here, what are we going to talk about today? We have a little short intro video that will help us figure that out.
Marriage is what brings us together today. Marriage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream. Then love, true love, will follow you forever. So treasure your one.
Skip the end.
Have you the wing?
Man and wife. Say man and wife.
Man and wife.
I don't know how your weddings went. Ours did not go that way. I'm sure that some of you were probably hoping that he would just hurry up and skip to the end. Some appreciate. Actually, there was a time where I was hoping. Ours got a little long-winded, which is probably why I have a bad habit of running really short when I do weddings. I think the last one I did was maybe 10 minutes. I think from like start to finish. So that was including my talking. So that was like, we had one wedding where, I mean, they told me, they said, we want this done as fast as possible. It was their 3rd wedding, both of them. And they said, we want this done as fast as possible. We don't really care. And okay, I mean, it was literally like 2 minutes long. And at the end of it, a guy stood up, one of the family members, the old guy stood up, he's like, that's what I'm talking about. Why can't weddings be more like this one? I said, hey, you know, I mean, if you're there, you're there, right? So anyways, marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today. And we're actually going to deal with a few different issues in marriage. Before we start, okay, there's a marriage sermon preparedness test. Okay, that you all have to, there's 2 questions you all have to answer. If you get them right, then you're ready for this message. If not, then we'll probably default and go somewhere else, but no, I'm joking. But the first question is any marriage perfect?
No.
Okay, good. You answered that one right. Okay, it's not a trick question. No marriage is perfect. Okay, I promise. The second question is there any one fix to make a perfect marriage? No. Okay. So, you guys are ready, and not only are you guys ready to hear the message, you're also understanding. I am admitting I don't have a perfect marriage, and I am admitting that there is more than one thing that to try to get a perfect marriage. So, I'm up here as a peer sharing information. Okay? I'm not up here harping on you saying, why doesn't your marriage look like our marriage? Okay? I'm not a big fan of marriage counseling. The reason why is because the counselor is usually trying to get the married couple's marriage to image or mirror their marriage. And they're 2 completely different sets of people and 2 completely different marriages. And no matter how good you think your marriage is, it's not going to work that way for somebody else. So that becomes a hard part when you're actually preaching about it. Because how do you preach about something that is so different with every situation? How do you preach about something that is not perfect? How do you preach about something that has many ups but has many downs? How do you preach about these kinds of things? But I found that there are a few topics within the confines of marriage. And just to preface this up at the front too, for those of you who aren't married, this is not checkout time. That's what happens. It's like, oh, we're going to preach about marriage, and the singles are like, what's my phone say? Man, this is I think I have somewhere else to be actually. This is a horrible, this message has nothing to do with me. No, you're wrong. If you're single, this message has everything to do with you. It has everything to do with you if you're married. And if you're a teenager, this has a lot to do with you as well. Because there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and there's a lot of things that this culture would have us believe about marriage that just simply are not true. And there's a lot of ways that this culture is trying to gear people to act prior to marriage and within marriage that are not godly, that are not biblical, and those kinds of things need to be addressed, and they need to be dealt with correctly. So, having said all of that, 3 issues inside of marriage. These 3 issues do not make perfect marriages, but what they do is they help make good marriages, and they're actually ingredients that are required for any marriage to be a good marriage. The first one is intimacy. Intimacy is a must, right, in a marriage. If you don't have intimacy, you might as well just be a single person shacking up with another person, because that's really all you're doing. Intimacy is a must, and we're going to actually talk about intimacy today. The second one is independence. Independence is an issue that always gets us in trouble with our marriages. Sometimes we feel like we have the right to be more independent than we do, and sometimes we don't realize that the other individual within the marriage does have a right to have some independence. So independence can create tension. Not handling it correctly can cause problems in marriage. And ultimately, I've seen a lot of marriages where a lot of people have walked away because they've mishandled the issue of independence. The third one is change. I think that's one of the hardest, because there's a lot of people, and it's just, although this, I just have to say, this oftentimes happens more with women towards men than men towards women in marriage, is the issue of change. When people get married, more often than not, the woman wants to change the man.
Yeah, that's true.
There are instances where it's the reverse, and the man wants to change the woman. So we'll deal with those later, not today, because I see all the faces like. So I just you don't want to go too far, too fast. Okay, one topic, stick to the topic. Let's cover this in depth. Intimacy. I need notes. There's a reason, most sermons I can preach without notes, but there are some where, man, it's just good to have some notes. There are several misconceptions about marriage, and as we go through the other sermons, we'll get into others more, but I just want to address one today. One of the biggest misconceptions about marriage is that time married equals quality of marriage. No. I'm sorry, no. I know some people who have been married for 50, 60 years, and their marriage is hell on earth.
Wow, that's true.
And I know people who have been married for 5 years, and it's bliss. Just because you made it to a 50-year mark, or a 60-year mark, or a 40-year mark, does not mean you have a good marriage. It just means you're stubborn people. Or you have to keep it light, right? I mean, when you're talking about such a serious subject, sometimes you have to keep it light. The truth about marriage, we look at marriage and we look at the divorce rates and we see that there's a huge fatality in marriage. The last I heard, which was years ago, was a 50% divorce rate, and that was even among Christians. So we have this massive divorce rate. But there was a time in this country when that divorce rate was significantly less. It was considered a bad word in marriage. I mean, if you popped off and said divorce, we got to go talk to the priest or the pastor or somebody, because we just don't say that word in this house. See, it wasn't that marriages were better back then. But what it was is there was a different thought process that went along with marriage. And the thought process that went along with marriage back then was, when you get married, you're married for life. There was no option. And if you thought about having another option, you legally had to prove that a divorce was acceptable. It had to be legal grounds for divorce. It was none of this, you just go up to the courthouse and be like, where is filing for divorce? Okay, well, why are you filing for a divorce? Well, because he doesn't like the color purple anymore. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Doesn't like the color purple. There you go, there's your divorce papers, you've been served. No. It was, why are you filing for divorce? Well, we had an argument. Honey, turn around and go work it out. That's not legal grounds for a divorce. But culture being what it is, and darkness being what it is, today marriage is more of it's actually more like a dating than an actual marriage. So we'll get married, we'll try it out, live together for a few years, we'll put the ring on the finger, and if we're not happy, we'll just split up, and, we're in Wyoming, so I get half of your stuff anyway, so, I mean, I came in with nothing, but I get to leave with half, it's, I don't even have to work that hard, really, and we can have a payday, and then we can go meet somebody else and get half of their stuff. However, that's not what marriage is. And shame on us in Christianity for not standing up and speaking more vocally about the sanctity of marriage. That's our fault. So, with all of that said, intimacy. Just to clarify real quick for everybody out there, see, this culture has taken intimacy and it's turned it into a specific definition. Did you know that when you look, and I don't even have to say it because you guys know what it is, and that's proof. But when you look at the actual definition of intimacy, do you know that that definition of intimacy is not until number 6? There are 5 other definitions of intimacy that have nothing to do with number 6. Interesting, number 6, number of man. That's the definition for acts. Hey, I just thought it was kind of cool. I'm like, huh. When it boils down to the fleshly part of this thing, we know exactly what we want to call this thing. But there are 5 other definitions of intimacy prior to that one. And what it tells me, and what the Bible shows me, and we're going to look at some scripture here in a second, what everything shows me is that intimacy should be and can be achieved prior to marriage. Not sexual intimacy. Intimacy, the other 5 definitions, those can be and should be achieved prior to marriage. Yes, what is the dating thing all about? Teens, this is for you, listen up. What is this dating thing all about? It's about finding someone with whom you can be intimate with before you put a ring on the finger and before you make a lifelong commitment. Because I'm telling you, once you make a lifelong commitment, once you commit to that individual, if you cannot be intimate with that individual, that relationship is never going to work. Talking about mental and emotional intimacy. Spiritual intimacy. All of that is supposed to come before any physical intimacy ever takes place. And if that doesn't exist, then they are not worthy of the shared physical intimacy. We turn in our Bibles to Mark chapter 10. This is actually the section of verses for all 3 messages on this marriage. They all 3 come out of this one section. Mark chapter 10, starting in verse 6. A little preview on this section of Scripture. The Pharisees had come to Jesus and were testing him concerning the issue of divorce. And they said, well, now, wait a second, Jesus. How do you feel about divorce? I mean, after all, Moses gave us a law that we could divorce somebody. And Jesus said, yeah, well, the only reason Moses gave you that law was because of the hardness of your hearts. But then Jesus goes in and he describes marriage, and in verse 6 of Mark chapter 10 it says, but from the beginning of the creation God made them male and female. For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the 2 shall become one flesh. So then they are no longer 2, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate. We've been at the weddings, right? We've heard that section of Scripture used. I don't think there's one wedding that I've been to where that Scripture has not been read. I think, above all, that's the pastor's last-ditch effort to ingrain into the minds of the people that are getting married, this is a God-joining thing, and you have no business trying to separate it. We think, oh yeah, did you hear that, family members? Stay out of our business. It's good. It applies there, right? You can pull this verse. When your parents start to control your marriage, you can pull this verse and say, hey, God joined us together. Get out of our marriage. You have to do it. I'm serious. Sometimes you have to do it. Parents just love their children. It's not their fault. I'm going to give them every justification and minimization for this that we can. To meddle in marriages. It's not their fault. But occasionally you have to say, look, this is our marriage. We have to do this. We have to work this out. We have to be the ones to make these decisions. We have to have these arguments. And it is for this reason why a man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. The King James says cleave. That word actually in the Greek, when you look it up, the actual definition means to be glued to. You're stuck. The other word that's used is conjoined. You know what conjoined twins are? They come out the womb and they're actually hooked together by skin and bone, and sometimes they share organs, and that's pretty close. When you get married, guess what God is doing? He is conjoining you. That's what's happening. You're not supposed to be taken apart. And when you get taken apart, something very real happens. You see, I was a child of a divorced parents. And when my parents, my original mother and father, got divorced, they lost a part of themselves to each other. And no matter how good the relationship was, the new marriage was, they never got that part back. Because divorce was never supposed to happen. Because the marriage act joins us together in such a way that we become one flesh. And now in a divorce, you're trying to dissect one body into two. You're going to lose pieces. You're going to lose parts. This conjoining that God does is the final act of intimacy between two people. It's the solidification of two souls, of two spirits, into one unit. See, intimacy, mentally and emotionally, is actually, I heard somebody say it this way, intimacy, you can break it down and you can say, into me, see. It makes more sense if you put the end of it at the beginning, see into me. You know what intimacy really is? Intimacy is when I open up completely to another individual and I let you see all of me. You see my past. You see my problems. You see my failures. You see my struggles. You see the hardships. You see the dirty, nasty dark that I don't let anybody see. And until you reach the point with an individual where you're willing to let them see the most horrid side of you and give them the option, now that you have seen the most despicable person that I have ever been, the most horrid individual that I could have ever been, you have seen it. Now you have the option. Are you going to stick around or are you going to leave? That option needs to be given before the ring goes on the finger. And if you can't open up to an individual and show them, this is who I am with all of my glory, baby. This is what you're getting when we tie the knot. And you don't give them the option to say, I don't think I can love that. Then you are setting yourself up for failure once the ring goes on your finger. Because eventually you're going to come to the place where you will open up to them and they will see who you truly are. And if they can't love that, they should have had that option before they got married. And they're not worth getting married to if they can't love that. The only person that is worth your life, the only person that deserves you for the rest of your life is the one who can look at all of the garbage, all of the trash, and say, I still love you. Then you have a soulmate. Then you have the person God intended for you. Anybody else is not worthy of the title. And shame on you if you give it to them. You are actually causing harm on them. Because when it comes out, now you've put them in a very hard position. I am speaking about my own life. I did not open up that way to Joy prior to our marriage. It wasn't until 2 years after. And then, the position that put her in, this is who I really am. Really. This is who I was in my past life. Really. I thank God that she was the one. Because she said, I love you anyways. I couldn't be intimate prior to marriage. It took 2 years. That could have destroyed that marriage. And I could not have blamed her if it did. She should have been given that option before this went on. See, because what this really is, it is the covenant that I make with you after seeing who you are. I have seen who you are. I have seen all of the garbage. I've seen all of the gunk. I've seen all your good, but I've seen all your bad. And in spite of all of your bad, I am making a commitment that I will be with you forever. I wonder why our marriages suck. Because we never really attain that level of intimacy. It should come first. What do you think Jesus is doing? Jesus comes back for his bride, right? We are not yet, listen, we are not yet married to Jesus. If I read my Bible correctly, there's a whole marriage feast, man, a supper at the end. Woo, that's going to be awesome. Yeah. Okay, but that hasn't happened yet. But Jesus affords us the same opportunity to have intimacy with Him prior to marriage.
Yes.
And we get the option. I don't want it. Because once that ring goes on the finger, pal, it's eternity.
Right.
He has given you every opportunity to be intimate with Him. For Him to be intimate with you. Prior to marriage. That's an example. It's an example to us of how to live our lives prior to marriage. We find that person, and it's all about the physical attraction at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Oh, whoo, man. And we're like hard after them, and we want... In that dating process, intimacy should be being developed. We should be sharing mentally and emotionally with that individual and opening up to them more than we're willing or able to open up to others. We should be bringing out the skeletons. Nothing more scary than when you're cleaning the house and you open the closet door and there's a skeleton you didn't know was in there. Man, I wish you would tell me about that. But it's serious too. How many of you after marriage want somebody to come up from your spouse's past? Did you know that your spouse? No, I didn't know. I thought I knew everything. Why would people say? Because you're supposed to. You're supposed to know everything about your spouse. The struggles in the marriage come when there's a lack of intimacy. You see, it doesn't just stop. You know, the good thing is, listen, this is the good thing, okay? This is not a lifelong, here's all my garbage. Here's all my garbage. Here's all my garbage. Every day, how's your marriage? Oh, it's just another day of showing off the garbage. I mean, that's a horrible marriage. That should be like, we work to that and then we work through that. And now we're just sharing this intimate life with each other, where we're just open with each other, we're honest with each other, we share our struggles, we share our trials, we share the things that make us mad, we share the things that make us glad. We share the good stuff about us, we share all of the happy things that make us happy. The reason why I'm a good gift getter for Joy on like Valentine's Day or her birthday or stuff is because there's been intimacy. And I know the things that she likes. There's subtle things that she's talked about when they're talking, and if you're not paying attention, husbands, you'll miss it. I know wives do it too sometimes. But there's a result of intimacy. You ever have the person from your coworker or somebody who was a friend, give you something and you're looking at the gift and you're like, wow, you really don't know me at all.
Yeah.
Not really what I would have chosen. I could tell there's no intimacy in that relationship. But see, that intimacy is supposed to be shared with that individual, and then it's supposed to be only shared with that individual. Another area in intimacy we get in problems with is when we go outside the confines of marriage to seek that kind of intimacy from another. Doesn't have to be an affair. Well, they're open to me. They talk to me. You're cheating on your husband. You're cheating on your wife. But we didn't. No, see, because you're going outside the confines of this intimate relationship to find intimacy. See, there's one thing that I do see in Scripture. What I see in Scripture is that mentally and emotionally, men can actually be intimate with other men. And have friendships like David and Jonathan. Right?
Yes. Amen.
Where I tell you anything, man, you're my best friend. And I will tell you everything. And I'll tell you about my struggles. I'll tell you about, and we hold each other accountable. And we live a life that is, we help each other grow. We help each other walk this thing through. When we're having hard days, I can talk to him. But he should never replace the wife. That person in that marriage relationship should be the individual with whom you are most intimate with. Out of anybody else on this planet. I don't care if it's your mom. You need to be more intimate with your spouse than you ever thought about being with your mom, with your dad, with your siblings, with your friend, your best friend. If you guys want marriage to work. I mean, if you don't, then by all means, don't worry about what I'm saying. Intimacy is like a rope. Not this rope. It's two different kinds of rope up here. The main difference between these ropes is that this is what we call a twisted rope, and this is a braided rope. Twisted rope is just, there's not real intimacy going on here. Okay? There's just overlapping, and this is all like superficial relationship. This is what the marriage becomes if there's no intimacy. We just get twisted together. We have this, oh, it's strong, yeah? It's strong until a test comes. Twisted rope has a problem. It's a very sharp knife. See, this one cut here creates a chain reaction. And it just comes undone. It's just twisted. There's nothing to hold it together. Once you get a problem, once the enemy comes and cuts the outside of this relationship, it's over. It's just a matter of time. It's going to continue to unravel, and it's going to continue to self-destruct because there is no intimacy. This rope is a fair amount thinner, and it's actually stronger. This rope is braided, and what they do is they cross-weave all of it together. See, this rope is cut, but for a long time, this rope still has its structural integrity. And you know that in most, even climbing ropes, okay, climbing ropes that have to be the safest ropes out there, they actually have a level of degradation that is still acceptable for them to use. it can actually have a certain amount of damage to it and still be usable for a climbing rope. Why? Because it's braided together. It maintains its structural integrity. Once the cuts get so deep, once you get so many, then of course they have to replace it for a new climbing rope. I mean, after all, it's your life hanging in the balance.
Funny.
But this rope, it doesn't unravel. Because of the way that it's put together. Because it's intertwined. The strings in here are intertwined with each other. You know what makes this rope so much stronger than this rope? Is because when weight is pulled on this rope, the spots where these strings are intertwined, it disperses pressure equally on those places, and it allows it to carry a much greater weight than any one of those strings could ever possibly hold in and of themselves. You see, your intimacy in your marriage is not just something that doesn't feel comfortable, and it's just something that I don't like to do because I don't like to talk, and it's much easier to just sit on the couch and watch TV all night long than carry on a conversation with my spouse. The intimacy in your relationship is made for the purpose of weaving and binding your lives together so that when stresses and trials come, you can withstand them. You know how they make this rope? I saw it. It's actually pretty cool. They have these machines, and they're like big spindles. And they have all of the individual strings on them. And they sit on the floor. It's this big round thing. They sit on the floor, and they're all geared. And then there's this thing up top, and it holds the thing. And those machines start dancing around each other. And as they dance around each other, they move in a movement that actually weaves all of it together. But in order for this to work, and in order for this to have strength after it's woven together, while it's being woven together, guess what? You have to have a certain amount of tension on the individual strings. You know what that means? Sometimes intimacy is not comfortable. It's tense. There's tension. And I have to share things that I'm not comfortable with sharing, but it's necessary if we're ever going to make a rope. And if it's ever going to have any strength, because if there's no tension while these are being weaved together, then it might as well just not even be weaved together. It's worthless. It loses all of its strength. See, when I purposefully am intimate with my spouse, I have to let her see things that are not so comfortable for me. That's true intimacy. That's seeing into me. You not only, listen, you not only see the good stuff and we have the good memories and the fun times, but it means that I become extremely vulnerable. With the one person that I should trust in this earth. If we really get this, this stops us from chasing others. I'm serious. Because what I would understand is that there's no intimacy there. Why would I forsake the intimacy that I have for no intimacy? the individual has trusted me with their ugly. And I've trusted them with my ugly. And we both got to step back and look at it. And we both made a conscious decision that regardless of how ugly the ugly is, I still love you. And I would still dedicate my life to you. I don't know about you. I don't ever want to have to go through that again. Honest. That level of intimacy, we have achieved a landmark that I don't ever have to want to climb that mountain again, okay? Which probably means if she dies before I do, I will probably not get remarried. Why?
You don't want to go there.
I don't want to go. It's how it should be. I'm not saying it's wrong to get married after a spouse dies, okay? Don't mix up what I'm saying. But we should have so much vested into each other. You see, when the spouse dies, it's more than just the loss of a person. It's the loss of your own flesh. It's the loss of you. See, true intimacy means that when somebody comes, the example I gave earlier, the person who comes, did you know? It's just like that person is telling your spouse. Why would you? Of course. Now what you need to do is you need to turn around and get out of here and stop trying to separate this intimate relationship that we've already formed. That's what you can do. I already know that. I already know everything. Here's what we've done a lot of times. Oh. We stand at the pulpit. Do you, Rick, solemnly swear? I do? And then we get home. What you doing, honey? Oh, I'm in the bedroom putting stuff away. Okay. Years go by. The bag is still sitting there unpacked. We've not really moved in. We're just living together. See, because what moved in married people do is they share dressers and they share closets sometimes, unless you get too many clothes, and then you have to have a his and hers, right? They share stuff, and stuff gets unpacked and put away. That's how a relationship is supposed to work. That's how marriage is supposed to work. We're supposed to come to this thing. See, everybody has baggage.
Yes, sir.
Everybody's got some.
No.
It may look a little, it may not be this heavy. I don't know why I make this so heavy. I don't know. I had to look back, I was struggling. It's really heavy. Everybody's got baggage. The mark of intimacy, though, in a relationship is, have the bags been unpacked? See, if I walk into a house and you guys are 5 years into your marriage and you got a pile of unpacked baggage sitting in the corner, I know there's no intimacy in that relationship. but there's stuff in here that I don't want them to see. Well, then you shouldn't be married to them. You should have never got the ring put on your finger if you're unwilling to let them look inside the bags. Because what a true marriage relationship will do is it will say, you know what? I know there's stuff in there, but hey, check this out. This is what we're going to do. We're going to sit down and we're going to go through this stuff together. And we're going to get rid of the stuff that you don't need, and we're going to put away the stuff that needs to be put away. Amen, brother. Preach it. That's good preaching. Woo! Hallelujah. We're having a good service today. Man, it's quiet in this church.
Just processing, brother. Processing.
The two become one flesh. The two become one flesh. Listen to me. I don't care what your thoughts on marriage are. You don't have the right to hide your baggage from your spouse. You gave up that right when you got married. They need to know everything that's in there. No matter how uncomfortable, no matter how hard, they need to know everything that's in here. The marriage is not the place for surprises. It doesn't matter if you're the man or the woman. Some spouses are saying, I don't need to know that. I don't need to know that. Great. But you still have to open it up and say, there it is. I won't refuse you to look at anything you want to in there. It's not pretty. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not proud of. But if you want to look in there, it's yours. Go ahead. If that never happened, you've not been intimate with each other. See, because in the midst of darkness, there are going to be things that are going to pull, and they're going to weigh down on your marriage, and they're going to take up your focus. They're going to try to distract you. They're going to try to do all of that. And God designed it so that together we could be a team that would walk through that. So that when the enemy comes to test me, and the enemy comes to try me in the midst of my weakness, my spouse can be strong. And when the enemy comes to test and try the spouse in the midst of her weakness, I can be strong. And I can keep an eye out because I know what the red flags are for the sins that she's easily able to walk into. And she knows what the red flags are for the sins that I'm easily able to walk into. And we don't become enablers. We don't put it in front of their face and say, well, man, I don't know, my spouse is having all these problems. I don't get it. God, help my spouse. No, you help your spouse. That's why you were given to your spouse. If I don't continue to have intimacy after marriage, then I become like this robe. And if we are intimate in marriage, and I fail to be intimate during marriage, you might as well just kiss the road-making process goodbye. Because what you are doing is you're setting yourself up for failure. You are headed down the nearest road to destruction that you could possibly take, and you're going there faster than you can even imagine. If your marriage is worth anything to you, if it means anything to you at all, you have to be intimate with your spouse. And intimacy is a thing that requires reciprocation. If I'm always trying to be intimate with my spouse and there's no intimacy coming back, it's not going to work. It requires reciprocation. Because then what's happening is I'm pouring and I'm pouring and I'm pouring out, and it's just hitting a wall, man. And there's nothing pouring back in. The weaving is not taking place. It can never be one-sided. Ever. The last part we get in trouble with is, well, I have this intimate relationship with God, and my spouse just don't get it. Have you tried sharing with your spouse what you got with your intimate relationship with God? See, God is in the middle of this thing, and you two are one flesh, which means although you have your separate intimate relationships with God, and although they are good, you better start including your spouse.
Amen.
And tell your spouse, man, this is what God showed me today. This is what God's doing in me today. This is what He spoke to me. This is, I really feel like this is a direction that He's wanting to take our family. Don't you think that's important to share with your spouse?
Yes.
Yeah. You see, it works a lot better when you say, honey, I think this is the direction God has for us to go. As soon as you hear God say, this is the direction I want you to go, than it is for you to wait for 3 weeks or a month later and say, oh, guess what? We're moving. What? No, we're moving. God said. When did God say we have to move? Well, like a month ago. And you never told me? We'll cover more of that later. If our marriages are going to survive the culture and the time that we're in, they have to be forged with intimacy. Have to. Guys, we got to open up to the wives. Wives, you got to open up to the husbands. You can't make it, well, he should know what I'm thinking. Why? You were never intimate with him. Well, she knows I love her. Really? Because you never told her. And it's more than just telling her. If you were intimate with her, you would know that. If she was intimate with you, you would hear that. No one person is at fault. Marriage is a hard word. No marriage is perfect. There's not a fix-it for every marriage. But intimacy is a key ingredient to having and maintaining not a good marriage, an awesome marriage.
Yep.
A marriage that stands every test. Wow, if I showed her this part, she would leave. Or if I showed him this part, he would leave. Really? Because he didn't leave or she didn't leave when you showed him the rest of the ugly. Probably not going to happen. It's probably just a lie the enemy's been telling you to keep you from having intimacy with your spouse.
Yep.
With the person you're dating, with your future wife. Intimacy prior to marriage, mental, emotional intimacy prior to marriage is a prerequisite. It has to be. Before you put this ring on the finger. And if you put the ring on the finger and that intimacy didn't take place, and you feel like there's a lack of intimacy in your relationship, start by being the one who opens up and being intimate. Going at it with accusation. You're never intimate with me. You never open up to me. You never talk. You need to do what Pastor Rick said you need to do. You need to start. That's not going to get you anywhere.
That's gonna get you a nice fight.
Your side of the bed.
Or the couch. If you're desiring intimacy, start being intimate. Start opening up. And if they continue to push back, I'm not saying do that. I'm just grab them by the arm and say, look at me! I'm trying to share with you. I'm trying to open up and be vulnerable with you. We need to be vulnerable with each other because that's what makes us stronger. In Christianity, the one thing that always produces strength, the one thing that always produces victory is surrender. I think we have to fight our way through. We have to, I ain't saying I'm a man, I ain't saying nothing. I'm a stubborn woman, I ain't saying nothing. I'm going to do that. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. At some point in time, you can be stubborn with the world. You can be stubborn with darkness. There's a lot of things you can be stubborn with. You should never be that to your spouse. Save your stubbornness for out there. Never inside the heart. Be open. Be honest. Be intimate. And you will enjoy the best relationship that you never thought you could have. Amen.
Amen.
It's worth fighting for. So we have the last song. If you guys just want to come to the altar and pray, it's open. You're welcome.